Welcome back to Back of the Box. This is an EMS podcast where we talk about EMS things. This is part two. Our last episode, we talked about the different levels of EMS. We talked about EMRs, EMTs, advanced EMTs, medics, the differences, and things of the sort, along with kind of telling you the origin stories of myself and Taylor, if you want to put it that way. And if you skip those, I don't blame you.
Yeah, just skip that.
They're not that interesting, But we're gonna continue on with that and talk about kind of the next phases, right? So imagine this: imagine you just finished your EMT program and you passed the NREMT exam, right? And you now are nationally certified. And assuming you did it in Utah, you are now state licensed, right? That's kind of the first thing that I want to touch on a little bit, right? Is there is a difference, and not everybody's aware of it, but there is a difference between a certification and a licensure, right? There is a certification is essentially a private organization that has developed some kind of standard that you have met, right? And you meet the standard, you can prove you meet the standard, they then get you a certification, right? The licensure is actually the legal entity or the legal authority that allows you to then work in said state, right? So real quick, I just kind of pull this up real quick. Certification is a non-governmental organization grants recognition to an individual who has met a predetermined qualifications specified by that organization, right? And the licensure is the state's grant of legal authority pursuant to the state's policy powers to practice a profession within a designated scope of practice, right? So, with that being said, you have to have a license. You can't just work under your national certification, right? So if you are licensed and you got your license and your state certification in Utah, you are now legally allowed to work in Utah. If you are leaving Utah, then you need to then pursue essentially whatever state licensure the state wants you to have in order to do so, right? There is a thing called the EMS Compact for a national level, national holding EMT or advanced EMT paramedic, which allows us to cross over certain like state lines and still practice under certain situations, and that's not all states or and whatnot. Most states nowadays, NREMT is required to get your state license. The few exceptions are North Carolina is an optional state, so you can get your national certification. And then New York and Alaska, it looks like, are the only other two that you do not have to be national. You don't have to go through national to get it. So the amazing thing about that is because all states are holding the same standard, you can take your national certification and go to any state and say, hey, I'm nationally certified. Can I have a license? Right. Every single state's going to have something maybe slightly different. Right.
Yeah.
And also depending on um, the level at which you are going into. But it kind of depends, right? But for the most part, as an EMT, like I was in Utah and I applied for an Alaska license. I paid $20, and like 3 weeks later, I got an Alaska patch and an Alaska EMT.
And it's just like
And
a
like I never,
processing fee.
yeah, I never entered the state,
Oh,
right? Um, so there's that, right? And then if you like, it's there and all kinds of things. But my point being is, once you're nationally certified, you're not necessarily tied to the state of Utah. Just make sure you pursue and you contact whatever EMS agency they have so that you don't get in trouble. And most people that are going to be hiring you are going to verify that anyway. So it's not a huge ordeal, but do your homework and do it correctly, right? Um, so you now have your shiny new card digitally because Utah doesn't print them out anymore. Um, but you're officially an EMT. What does the job market look like, Taylor? What are we looking at
uh,
for some of our first time EMTs or whatnot?
yeah, I hear this very commonly from students. It has to be frustrating because you hear about the need. They need EMTs. They need help. They need this. And the frustrating part is, well, it seems to be like one of two categories. Um, they want people who have experience, but you can't get experience unless you can get hired somewhere. Um, or they want higher level providers. And so there's some frustration with that. And then also, it's especially in the fire EMS world, the interview process is so different than any other job application that you've probably gone
Yeah,
through. Um,
let's not to interrupt you or to like stop that train of thought, but let's because the fire aspect is like you said, it's a whole beast on its own, right? So before we get into that, what are some potential entry level jobs,
that
entry
that
level,
would be good. Yeah.
that that people who are just looking to dabble in, or part time, or maybe college students, or maybe people who are using this as a stepping stone who aren't necessarily looking for fire off the get go, or for them to do while they now pursue going into fire.
Yeah.
What are some of those options?
So the hard thing is the jobs are out there. You just have to look for them. And so I know a lot of the medical assisting, um, and usually that comes with the caveat of advanced or higher, but some places will take you as an EMT. Um, ERs will hire a lot of EMTs. Uh, there's the obvious, and I know it gets a lot of hate on it, but private ambulance companies um, tend to always be hiring, and then there is some inherent turnover rate that goes over there. But um, in my opinion,
But part of that turnover rate is because it is
a stepping stone.
largely a big stepping stone
Yes,
position, right?
and there's nothing
So
wrong with that.
keep that in mind.
And in my opinion, I think you would agree, any type of patient contact is patient contact. And if you use that experience to your benefit and learn from it, even though you might not be doing exactly what you want to be doing, there are things that you're going to take from it and um, excel in your career, because you and me
Yeah.
both have seen, even in classes, how much better a student does when they've had even minimal clinical experience.
Oh, 100%. Especially the advanced levels, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that I always encourage everyone to do, especially the ones that are not like gung ho fire, right? Because we ask our students usually
Hmm.
first day of class, like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And we'll get the gambit. We'll get firefighters, PA school. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. I don't know what I want to be. I'm doing this for fun.
Yeah.
Whole gambit, right?
Yeah.
I really encourage them, especially when they start asking these questions, like, well, where should I get a job? Is, well, what's your end goal,
Right.
right? Because I feel like with EMT and EMS in general, um, there are so many options in every little facet, like you were saying, right? Like if you want to be a PA or a doctor or a nurse or something, and you have an idea of what that is, right? And say you want to, oh, I want to be a orthopedic surgeon. Great, get your EMT, go work as an MA, a medical assistant in an orthopedic clinic,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Build a knowledge base early, network, or get in there, realize I don't like this, feet stink, I don't want to be doing this, and get out and try something else, right? um, but the EMT is a great position and a great certification to have to set you up to try so many different things if you're one of those people who's like not entirely sure where the medical field you want to end up in.
Right. Because it does cover the whole gamut from pediatrics to orthopedics to cardiology to all of that. You get a little bit of taste of everything, so it's super beneficial.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I'd say, and you might agree. I mean, if you just don't know, just put the applications out. You know, to every clinic, to every surgical suite, to every um, private ambulance company. Like you're bound to it does get frustrating for a while, but something will hook. And the hardest part, and like I said earlier, is getting that experience under your belt and then transitioning into the job you want. I found that a lot of people get the schooling over with and they want to go straight into what they want to do, and then sometimes it takes a little bit longer and you have to work around it. And so don't get frustrated, don't give up on it. But yeah, I think. Can you think of any other? I mean, we kind of rambled on in part one about our experience in that, but
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's, it all applies, right? Like if you want to go under fire, go private ambulance, right?
mhm,
Um, go into an ED, uh, do something like that, and like you said, these jobs can be hard sometimes. All jobs can be hard sometimes, um, and some patient experience is better than no patient experience.
yes,
Um, but there's also something to be said if you've been working the same gig for 5 years, and you're going for fire, like loyalty in the fire service shows,
it does.
right? And so maybe you stick with what you're doing, and whether you're doing like contracting or, drywall or whatever the case might be, and you can have a good, 5-10 year track record of work history on your belt. That's also not necessarily a bad thing. You don't have to jump straight into a medical job if you're looking for fire. The one thing I will say, that I warn a lot of my students about who are seeking fire is get some kind of experience,
Yes.
whether you volunteer or something,
Yeah.
because it really sucks to go through an EMT class where you get exposure to trauma and medical and all kinds of things. And then maybe you are one of the lucky ones and you graduate from EMT school and you get picked up by a fire department, you know, within the first couple of months or weeks or whatever. You then do 16 weeks of absolute torture as they put you through the fire boot camp,
Yeah.
learning all the firefighting things,
Mhm.
right? And then realize that the job is arguably 90% medical,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Depending where you go, like medical trauma,
Yeah. I think.
and like most of it's medical kind of stuff. Like that's the vast majority of what most agencies do.
Yeah.
Um, and not that that's a bad thing. The thing that sucks is when you get into that and you realize you maybe see your first real bad trauma, or you see your first real bad medical, or you just can't handle some of the stuff, and so you've just. I'm not going to say it's a waste because I am a strong believer of anything that you learn, as long as you learn something, is not wasteful time.
Yeah.
But 12 weeks plus another 16 weeks of misery to then find out I don't I don't like this medical stuff. Right? I don't like the lift assist. I can't do CPR. Like the amount of vomit and excrement that came out of that patient when we did like I can't handle, and it's not for everybody. And again, there's no shame in that whatsoever. But it sucks when you find that out 16 weeks after a fire camp,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And there are people who, it gets better with time and they handle it and they do just fine. And then there are some that I know of that got through a camp and were like, nope,
Not for me.
can't do this.
Yeah.
Don't want to do this. I don't want to. Nope. So, um, those are the ones I recommend, like private ambulance service. Get some experience. Make sure, unless you're like prior military or something, you've seen some stuff. Like go see some stuff
Yeah.
and make sure that your mind and your gut can withstand and handle, and that you enjoy that to a degree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I mean, it'll happen. But yeah, just get them out there. But so you have a background in ski patrol. That's a large majority of what we see here, in with all the resorts around. And if you love
yeah,
the outdoors and that, but that in itself is a very hard job. Kudos to those who do it, because they do a very difficult job up on that mountain. Um, Refineries, security companies, they all hire EMTs as well. The biggest word of advice I would say is don't become stagnant. And we see it. We've seen it a few times where we had a student and they tried a few things, got frustrated, a few applications out, and then they sat. And then they're ready to
yeah.
start it again, and everything expired. And so it's like, well, why are you back here? And I did that. It's like, well, everything expired. I got to do it again. And so
And remember, your license expires, so
yeah,
keep it up.
keep it up. Keep up on those CMEs. There are resources out there to
Yeah,
keep those up. But like you said, any experience, whether it's if you're going the fire route, like construction is a great, foundational job to get. Learning how to, not only work hard, but building construction, and that if you're in the medical field, I mean, one of the biggest benefits I've seen a lot of people is like they don't think of is like a family practice medical assistant. because they see so much. They see so many different pathologies, and it's not a high
Yeah.
stress, um, you know, acute moment. It's usually, you're seeing these and you're managing them, but you're just more familiar with them. Um, ERs, and if you don't like medicine, then the fire EMS world is going to be very difficult for you, because what people don't really realize is 90% of what we do is medical. Um, I can't tell you how many times I get asked, "Well, why is there a fire truck here?" Well, it's because all the personnel on that engine are EMT or above, and so even if you're on a fire engine, you have the medical equipment. You're going to respond at least everywhere here in the valley and just outside of it. And so, um, really have a passion for this medicine, and enjoy taking care of people as you should. So, um, but yeah, I guess just don't get discouraged is what we'd say. It took both of us a very long time to get to where we kind of wanted to be. Lots of other jobs that got us there, but it all starts somewhere. And so I think you
And one of us is there, and the other ones will get there eventually.
yes, yes. We'll keep fighting that fight. But
Sure am. Um, I don't know what to say. Yeah.
uh,
I think you're not wrong on that whole don't get discouraged, don't get stagnant. Um, like we kind of mentioned before, like all these places are looking for people, and all these places also want experience,
yeah,
and so you just kind of have to like put your name out there until you get that one person, that one interview who's gonna give you that chance to start getting that experience,
yeah,
right? I remember back out of high school, I got my phlebotomy certification. Don't know why, but I got it, and started applying for jobs. And that was like the biggest thing I saw. I was like, well, no, the minimum requirement was like 6 months to a year of prior phlebotomy experience. I'm like, well, how do you expect me to get experience if every single job out there wants experience?
yeah,
Makes no sense. But um, you know, you just gotta kind of keep pushing, and eventually you'll find that one person who's like, "Oh, I like you. Let's give you a chance."
yeah,
Um, and then if you do decide to change, it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Everyone changes. There are plenty of doctors and nurses and firefighters and whatnot that have become burnt out or just had a change of heart, and are doing something completely different, like nursing.
yeah.
Um,
Mm,
um, but yeah, there are lots of options out there. Um, and none of them are necessarily more right than the other. Like I said, I encourage you to think about what your end goal is and where you want to be, and what you enjoy the most, right? Like if you really enjoy the pathophys and the medical and the end all be all of like, well, what's going on, and then what are these telling us, and all that stuff, you're not going to get that pre-hospital, right? You're not going to get that really in-depth knowledge and in-depth information pre-hospital, because that's what all comes in the hospital, right? That comes labs and x-rays and CT scans and those kinds of things where we get that information.
right.
You'll get a lot of firefighters that will tell you our only job is to make sure we get them there alive, right? And it's not a wrong thought process to a degree, right? And if that's how they want to think about it, that's fine. Um, But if you look at that patient and go, yeah, we got him here alive, but you're itching to like, well, but what
Hmm.
what else? What's next? What are they gonna do? Like how? Then maybe look at other options.
Yeah.
Right? What are if you're working pre-hospital for an ambulance service and you're itching to find out more, then go into the ED, go into an ICU, pursue PA or nursing, or maybe even go for your doctor. Those are the signs that maybe you want more. Your brain is wanting more and isn't satisfied with the 20 minutes of care that you had with that patient, right? And then there are others that love the rapid, fast pace, load them up, get them going, lights and sirens, get them to the hospital, you know, pass them off, and then go get the next one, right?
Yeah.
Um, and again, also fine. Everyone has different interests and different um, mentalities and desires, and you got to find the right one for you, and that could take some time. It can also take a couple of attempts, a couple of tries to find the right career, the right information, the right crew, right? Like one of the biggest reasons why I love what I do is not because of what I actually do, but it's because of who I do it with.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I love my crew at the hospital, and that makes a world of difference
Yeah.
versus having worked with crews in the past that I could work with, but they weren't my favorites, and it made work a little less enjoyable on the day to day, but yeah. Anything to add, Mr. Mustache Man?
What's that? No, I think
Is there anything to add, Mr. Mustache Man?
no. I just hope this was. I mean, the reason we kind of brought this up was, that this week after every class, we've kind of, we get that lineup of students that have questions and stuff, and hopefully, we don't necessarily get the time to address everyone individually. um, but I mean, it sounds like it was, it was a lot of just kind of jabbering on that, but really it was to sum it up. It was to say, look, me and Ben have been doing this for a while now, and anyone who's been doing it for a while will tell you they didn't start off where they wanted to be, and um, it took some time and it took some weird pathways, and it never was a straight line. And so, keep your chin up, keep applying, keep getting out there, look at other options that you maybe didn't think of before. Um, and you will get there. You will. If you have a drive and a passion for it, you will get there. Um, you will pass the tests. You'll do it. Um, and you will have, and speak to you'll have team members, coworkers, classmates that will help you get there. And the biggest thing is just, if you want it bad enough, you have to speak up, and
Yeah.
and there are people there that will get you there. Um, because everyone's path is different, and so hopefully it kind of shines some light on that, on the different pathways, and there's tons of options, and hopefully it gave you an idea that you didn't have before. And we just want you to, everyone, and you've taught many more students than I have, but our end goal is just we want you to be successful. We want you to do well, and do what you want to do. The EMT thing is a family, whether you are working or you're not. Um, it's just something about, when we see someone who has that same patch, and that it's special, and we support each other in that. So
Yeah. That is one thing with EMS and healthcare in general, right? Is doesn't matter if you're fire, law enforcement, EMS on an ambulance, or in that ED. all of its emergency services. It may not be strictly medical, with like your law enforcement and some of your fire stuff, but it's all emergency services, and it is one big community.
Yeah.
And everyone's there to help and support, and grow and encourage and find a little mentor and let them guide you down a pathway maybe and give you tips and pointers. There are tons of them out there. But yeah, first step, get that EMT, get that advanced EMT, and then start just throwing out applications. So one will bite eventually, and that'll be the first one. And then next thing you know, you're down the door, out the door, and doing whatever it is you want to do. You're flight medic, flight nurse, doctor, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We've got an email, backofthebox@gmail.com. You can leave comments on this. This will also be on YouTube to leave comments on. Yeah, love to hear from you guys. What kind of things you want to hear from us, so on and so forth. Best of luck on your guys' future job hunts, and study hard. Always study hard, and practice those interview questions. That would be my other big tip. Those interview questions, they are tricky. So, coming up next here in the next little while, we're gonna hopefully have a couple of guys come on that talk about fire camp, having just graduated, and give you kind of a first-hand look about what it is, what to expect, and how to survive it, essentially, because it is about surviving, not about flourishing. I don't think anybody flourishes through fire camp.
No.
Taylor, you can probably agree with me to that, right?
I can agree with that.
Just like nursing school, no one flourishes in nursing school. Even if you get straight A's, you're not flourishing. You're surviving.
You're holding on.
So, but yeah, great talking to you, Taylor. Till next time, and as always, guys, we're around. So, hope you guys all have a great. What is it? Today's Thursday. Great weekend and Memorial Day. And if this comes out before or after, I don't know when I'm putting this one out, but yeah. Talk to you guys later.